Okay, then good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible and the slide is visible? Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
okay. So now let's discuss about the one more technique for cost estimation or report estimation. Basically, the project estimation techniques can be divided into three major categories. One is empirical technique, two heuristic techniques, three analytical techniques. Under empirical techniques, we have seen the techniques such as expert judgment technique, Delphi technique, etc. They are coming under empirical judgment, empirical techniques. Under heuristic techniques, we have seen COCOMO model, etc. All the COCOMO models are coming under heuristic techniques. The remaining technique is analytical technique. So we must take one example from the analytical technique. So today we will take up one example of analytical technique. This technique named as Halstead software science. This is coming under empirical technique for effort estimation and cost estimation. Okay. So now let's see what do you mean by analytical technique. What does it do? An analytical technique is a technique which can be used to measure the size, development, effort, and the development time, etc. So Halstead software science is an analytical technique which can be used to measure the size, development effort, and development time for any project. Let's see how or on what factors Halstead software science depend. Halstead, he is a great scientist. Halstead, he has used some primitive program parameters for estimating the effort, cost, and time, etc. He has developed some expressions for estimating the overall program length, the potential minimum volume, the actual volume, the language level used, the effort that will be required, and the development time that will be needed for building a project. So Halstead has developed these expressions for these following parameters. Now let's see how does this Halstead software science work. He has assumed some parameters. Let's first understand what are those parameters, what are the assumptions, and what are the notations. So Halstead has taken these parameters. So for some given program, he has assumed that let eta 1, small eta 1 be the eta 1 be the number of unique operators used in the program. What are the unique operators? Plus, minus, if then else, or switch, etc. Eta 1 be the number of unique operators used in the program. Eta 2 be the number of unique operands used in the program. What are the unique operands they are used? N1, capital N1 be the total number of operators used in the program, and capital N2 be the total number of operands used in the program. Okay. Then the terms operators and the operands have utility minutes. Please remember these are a little bit subjective. The terms operators and the operands, they have normal intuitive meanings. A precise definition of these terms is required to avoid any sort of ambiguities. Unfortunately, there is no general agreement among researchers on definition of operators and operands. Which things will be considered as operators? Which things will be considered as operands? There is no common agreement among the researchers. So some rules are given. Let's see some of the rules based on which we can define whether this is an operator or this is an operand. So since no agreement is there, some general guidelines can be provided. So these are some guidelines. Like all assignment, arithmetic, and logical operators, they will be treated as operators. Okay. So all the you have already known C, C++, many programs. So all the assignment operators, arithmetic operators, and logical operators, they are treated as operators. Similarly, if a pair of parentheses is there, a pair of parentheses as well as a block begin, block end. Those who have known Pascal, etc., they are at that time they are not using this parentheses. They are using begin and end. So either you can see wherever you will find a pair of parentheses, or a block of begin and end pairs. A block begin and block end pair, they are also considered as single operators. Don't consider as two operators. If left parenthesis is there, then you must find out the right parenthesis. If you begin is there, you have to find out the end. That will be treated as one single operator. Similarly, a label is considered to be an operator if it is used as the target of a go to statement. Those who have used go to statements, you might have said go to error, and error you are defining somewhere else. So that statement error which is that statement which is labeled as error, it has to be also treated as an operator. So label is also considered to be an operator if it is used as the target of a go to statement. These are some guidelines we have given that can be used as operators, that can be used for deciding that which will be operators and which should not be operators. So if these criteria met, these guidelines can be used to decide that which things can be considered as operators. Let's quickly take some other guidelines. We have already used if then else statement kind of things. So if then else and if statement, then that will be also treated as a single operator, not that for if for one, then else and if. No, all those things will be treated as only single operator. Similarly, while do statement, all the lines embedded within that. So while do construct will also be treated as a single operator, not multiple operators. Similarly, you must have used in C, etc. the statement termination operator, that is semicolon. So a sequence or the statement operator, that is the semicolon, it is also treated as a single operator. Similarly, function calls, the functional name is an operator. Please remember, while you are making function calls, the functional name is treated as an operator, and IO parameters are considered as operands. So what in a function call, what IO parameters, input output parameters you have used, they will be considered as operands. Please see, name of the function will be considered as operator, but the IO parameters, they will be treated as operands. Okay, so these are some of the guidelines we have discussed for selecting the operators and operands. This is here I have taken ANSYS language. Some of the what commonly used operators they have given. These are very easy. You can see yourself, like this parenthesis is treated as one operator. Square bracket, another operator. Full stop, another operator. Comma, another operator. Shiftwise operators, bitwise operators. These are all will be treated as operators. This is what conditional operator. This is also an operator. Similarly, case default value, one operator. If else, another operator. Switch, another operator. While do, another operator. For, another operator. Go to, another operator, like this. So these are all examples of operators. Similarly, a function name in a function call, that is also an operator. So these are the basic some popular operators, common operators you are using in ANSYS. So now let's see what will be operands. So operands will be those variables and constants which are being used with operators in expression. So in expressions, if you are using some variables and constants, they will be treated as the operands. So operands are those variables and constants which are being used with the operators in expressions. Please note that the variable names appearing in declarations, they are not considered as operands. If you are writing integer ABC like that, so the variable names ABC which are declared, which are appearing in the declarations, they are not considered as operands. Okay, so please note that the variable names such as ABC, integer ABC, which are declaring in declarations, which are appearing in declarations, they are not considered as operands. Okay. Let's quickly take few examples. There is a small expression A is equal to ampersand B. Here you can see as per the guidelines just we have discussed now, isn't it? The guidelines we have discussed now. These are the guidelines we have just discussed. So please go through these guidelines. If you will follow these guidelines, you can see that in this expression A is equal to ampersand B, A and B are operands. And what are the operators? Equal to is an operator, and is an operator. One I am missing. This semicolon is also an operator. So these are all what? Operators. Because I have already told you this this operator semicolon is also, this is statement termination. This is also treated as a single operator. So in this expression, A and B are operands, and equal to, ampersand, and this is semicolon. These are all operators. The function name in a function definition is not counted as an operator. Please see, if it is a function definition, then the function name is not counted as an operator. But if it is a function call, then the function name will be treated as an operator. So if you are making like definition like this, So then they is not deprecated, but when here the function name, here the function name is a func. So func is not what I have told you earlier. See, in case of a function, in a function call, function name is an operator and IO parameters are treated as operands. So in this case, this is a what function definition. Here the operators are what? These two curly brackets and these two what parentheses. These are operators. We do not consider what function A and B as operands, because why? This is a function definition. We consider when in a function call, we consider the IO parameters as operands. Since this is a function definition, we do not consider func, name of the function func, A, B as operands, we do not consider. But in the function call, the func will be considered as the operator, A, B will be treated as operands. Okay, these are IO parameters. These are IO arguments or IO parameters. They will be considered as operands in function call. So now in the function, let's take an example of function call statement. I have defined here function C. Now I am calling function C. In the function call statement, function A, B. So what are the operators? So func, this name func, func, func square bracket, and it is terminated with what? Semicolon. These are considered as operator. So func C, this is considered as the operator. The variables A and B, they are treated as operands. Where? In a function call. Okay. Now let us go to estimation. How by using these terminologies we can estimate the length, effort, etc. for a given project, for a given program. First, let's try to estimate the length and vocabulary. Let's define length. The length of a program, it quantifies the total usage of all operators and operands in the program. Please remember, the length of a program, it quantifies what? It quantifies the total usage of all the operators and all the operands in a program. So what is the operators? All the operators, operands, I have already told you. Here, N1 be the total number of operators, N2 be the total number of operands. So, okay. So now, what the total operators now, the total length will be how much? It will be represented as N. This will be N1 plus N2, because N1 is the total number of operators, N2 is the total number of operands. So the program length is equal to N, which is equal to N1 plus N2. What do you mean by program vocabulary? Means how many such operators, unique operators and unique operands are used. That will be the vocabulary, not the total operators and operands. How many unique operators and operands are used, that is known as program vocabulary. In our previous assumption, I have already told you, let N1 be the number of unique operators used in the program and N2 be the total number of unique operands used in the program. So what will the program vocabulary? So program vocabulary will be equal to how much? Eta, it will be written as eta, which is equal to eta 1 plus eta 2, where eta 1 is equal to unique number of operators and eta 2 is the unique number of operands. So program vocabulary eta is equal to eta 1 plus eta 2. Okay. Now let's quickly define program volume. The length of a program is, how I will define? I have already told you length of a program N is equal to N1 plus N2. I have already told you the length of a program is defined as the total number of operators and operands used in the code or the program. So the length of a program, it depends on what? The choice of operators and operands. What operators you are choosing, what operands you are choosing, the length of a program depends on the choice of the operators and operands. That is, for the same program, the length depends upon the style of programming, isn't it? The same function, factorial of a number, you can use just without using a function, with using a function, using recursion, etc. So for the same program, the length depends on the style of programming. Similarly, swap the variable, you can use without using a function, with using a function, maybe or a recursion or using what pointers. So if for the same program, the length will depend on what? It will depend on the style of programming that you are using. Okay. So we can have highly different measures of length for essentially the same problem. So now if there are different programs are there, programmers are, there are different programmers, they are using different styles of programming, then what will happen? We can have highly different measures of length for essentially the same problem. The program is same, the problem is same, but you will get different measures of lengths. To avoid this kind of problem, the notion of program volume is introduced. They have been introduced, or Halstead has introduced a term called as program volume. This is represented as capital V. He has defined the program volume V is equal to capital N log 2 eta, where N is the program length and eta is what? Program vocabulary. So program volume is equal to N into log 2 eta. This is how program volume is defined by Halstead. Now let's see another definition, potential minimum volume. Here we have seen program volume. But what is the potential and minimum one? So potential minimum volume. Intuitively, program volume V denotes what? What symbol I have told you, V is equal to N log 2 eta. What does it represent? Intuitively, program volume V denotes the minimum number of bits needed to encode the program. Okay, so program volume V, this formula I have given, this intuitively represents. Intuitively, program volume V denotes what? The minimum number of bits that will be required to encode the given program. Now, to represent eta different identifiers, you see how many identifiers will there, how many unique operators and operands, total is eta. To represent eta number of different identifiers, how many, minimum bits will be required? We need at least log 2 eta bits, isn't it? See the definition, log 2 eta bit, log 2 eta. So to represent eta different identifiers, we need at least log 2 eta number of bits, where eta is the program vocabulary. I have already told you eta is the program vocabulary. So to represent eta different identifiers, we need minimum log 2 eta bits. Now let us define the potential minimum volume. The potential minimum volume, which is denoted as V star. V is used for simply volume, program volume, but the minimum volume is represented as V star. The potential minimum volume V star is defined as the volume of the most succinct program in which the program can be coded. Okay, so please I am repeating again, the potential minimum volume V star, it is defined as the volume I have already defined earlier. So the potential minimum volume V star is defined as the volume of the most succinct program in which the program can be coded. Minimum volume, how it can be obtained? The minimum volume can be obtained when the program can be expressed using a single source instruction. Okay, the minimum volume can be obtained when the program can be expressed using a single source code instruction, like say a function like foo, just a single source code instruction if you can write. So this may be treated as the potential minimum volume. The lower bound on volume. What do you mean by lower bound on volume? The lower bound on volume means a program would have at least 2 operators. Okay, the lower bound on volume means a program would have at least 2 operators and no less than the requisite number of operands. How many number of operands? Minimum number of operands that has to be required. That is the input output items. These are the operands. What is the minimum requirement that has to be there within this or for these operators? So the lower bound on volume is a program. Okay, so lower bound on volume is defined as like this: a program that would have at least 2 operators and no less than the requisite number of operands, minimum number of operands. Okay, and here now the requisite number of operands means the requisite number of input output data items. This is how the potential minimum volume for a program can be defined. Now, if an algorithm operates on an input output data, please see now little bit mathematical notations. If an algorithm operates on some input output data items such as D1, D2, Dn, etc., then the most succinct program is function of D1, D2, Dn, isn't it? If an algorithm operates on some input output data items such as D1, D2 up to Dn, then the most, then in order to find out the potential minimum volume, we have to find out what will the most succinct program? The most succinct program which will operate on input data items like D1, D2, Dn is represented as function of these input output data items D1, D2, Dn, for which eta 1 will be how much? Eta 1 is what? Eta 1 unique operators. I have already told you for the potential minimum volume how many operators will be required? Minimum 2. So eta 1 is equal to 2. Eta 2 is what? Operands, unique operands. How many unique operands are required? No less than the requisite number of operands. Let us assume that the requisite number of or minimum operands required is n, because here we have taken how much? D1 to Dn. So maybe n. So for this most succinct program, n1 is equal to 2. Sorry, eta 1 is equal to 2 and eta 2 is equal to n, because the input data items are from D1 to Dn. Therefore, the potential minimum volume can be defined as V star is equal to how much? You get straightforward equation, 2 plus eta 2 into log 2 into 2 plus eta 2. Where did I get this thing? V star formula. Where is V star formula? Here. So V star, where is V star? Yes, it is the most for B. Let's first see. B is equal to defined as how much? N into log 2 eta. And here I have found out what is the value of n and eta. The value of n and eta I have already told you. Here, this will be how much? N is equal to what? N1 here. See, B is equal to n into log 2 eta. So now that I have to put the values here. This is minimum volume we are considering. So here I have to take what this here n1, when you will take, we have to consider the unique numbers, n1 plus eta 1 plus eta 2, eta 1 is equal to 2 and eta 2 is n. Then log 2, so this will be now represent capital N. Then log 2 what? Eta, and because here capital N is same as your eta. So 2 plus eta 2 plus log 2, and again eta is how much here? Eta 1 plus eta 2. Eta 1 how much? 2. 2 plus n2. So here capital N is equal to eta. Therefore V star is equal to that formula n into log 2 eta. In the place of n, we can put 2 plus n2 from the given above expression into log 2. Again eta means this eta 1 plus eta 2, 2 plus n2. Okay. So in that way, we have found out the potential minimum volume here. Okay. So here we have found out this V star is equal to eta 1 plus eta 2, that is 2 plus eta 2 into log 2. Again eta 1 plus eta 2, here eta 1 is equal to 2. So 2 plus n2, 2 plus eta 2. Where eta 2 can be taken as n, because here the data items vary from D1 to Dn. So therefore the potential minimum volume can be computed as V star is equal to 2 plus eta 2 into log 2 into 2 plus eta 2. Okay. The program, then another definition we will see called as program potential level, or we can say that no, I think it should be program level, not potential level. This is a copy paste mistake. This must be program level. The program level L is given by L is equal to V star by V. Okay. The program level L can be defined as L is equal to V star by V, where V star is the potential minimum volume, V is the only program volume. This program level L, why we are interested in computing program level L? The program level L is a measure of the level of abstraction. The languages can be ranked into levels that appear intuitively correct. Okay, so this L, we are interested to find out the program level L, because this can be this is used as a measure of the level of abstraction. What is the level of abstraction? The languages, then they can be ranked into different levels that appear intuitively correct. So here this program level can be used for ranking the different languages. The languages can be ranked into different levels that appear intuitively correct. So this is the application of potential level. Then we'll go to the important thing, that is the important time. The effort, according to Halstead, the effort is computed as E is equal to V by L, where E is the number of mental discriminations required to write a program. What is the number of mental discriminations required to write a program? How well when a programmer is writing a program, how many number of mental discriminations are required to write a program? This is represented as E. Also, the effort required to read and understand the program. Also, what also we here it will E will also represent the effort that will be required to read and understand the program. L you have already known. This is the program label. V the potential volume. Okay, the program volume. Now I want to compute E. So E is equal to how much? I have already told you V by L, and V here you can see from equation I have given L is equal to V star V. From this you can find out V. So V will be how much? V star by L. Just find out the value of what V here and put here the values. So E is equal to V by L. I am putting the value of V. So V will V is equal to how much? Okay. So V by L, and again please see. E is equal to how much? V by L. And what is the value of V? V is equal to, if you will find out, V is equal to V star by L, like that. So accordingly you put the values here. So 1 V already there. So again V into V will be V square. So thus programming effort is equal to V square divided by V star. And you know this L is, I already told you, I have just put the value of what V here. Or we can say better we put the value of L here, that will be better. From this L is equal to V star by V, put the value of L as V star by V, so V will go up, then it will be V square by V star. So since L is equal to V star by V, it varies at the square of the volume. You can see that E is equal to V square divided by V star. Experience shows that from various research studies or by conducting some previous experiments, your experience shows that E is well correlated to the effort needed for maintenance. So this E is very much well correlated to the effort that will be required for maintenance. So this is how you can compute the programming effort. The programmer's time can be defined as T, and this is defined as E by S. Where E, I have already told you the effort. Where S is what? Where S is the speed of mental discriminations. So here I have already told you E the number of mental discriminations, but B or S, where S is the speed of mental discriminations which are required to developed from psychological results due to Stroud. Okay. Where S is the speed of mental discriminations developed from psychological results due to Stroud. We have to remember this thing. The recommended value for development of software for S is 18. Okay. This has already been obtained from several experiments. So in this way, you can kind of find out, you can estimate the programmer's time T, which can be defined as E by S. Then I will give another, I have already told you about L, program length. Now let's quickly discuss another method. And because please see what I have told, L can be computed as well. I have already told you earlier, L is equal to program length is equal to N1 plus N2. I have already told you. So, but another method here, we have to know the total number of operators and operands. If you are writing a 1000 lines of code, counting each operator and operand, it is very cumbersome. So if you can find out another way by just counting the total, the unique number of operators and operands, then our job will be a little bit simple. So let us, this is the straightforward way. Program length is equal to total number of operators plus total number of operands. Now let us find out another way, efficient way, where or by using which you can find out the program length without knowing the total number of operands and operators. Just by knowing the unique operators and operands, we can find out the length. That's what I am going to teach here. Halstead assumed that it is quite unlikely that a program has several identical parts. So Halstead has assumed that it is very much, or it is quite unlikely that a program has several identical parts. That means it is having a program normally it has less number of identical parts, or it has what he has assumed that it is quite unlikely that a program has substrings of length greater than eta. You know, eta is the program vocabulary. So in fact, once a piece of code occurs identical in several places, it is usually made to a procedural function, isn't it? Similar lines of code appears many places. What you should do? You should just reprint as a function, then you call out the appropriate places. That's what it is told here. In fact, once a piece of code occurs identically in several places, then normally what do we do? It is usually made into a procedure or a function. Thus, we can safely assume that any program of length n consists of how many unique strings of length? It consists of n by n number of unique strings of length. Okay, since we assume that a piece of code, or since we assume that a program has very less number of identical parts or substrings of length greater than eta. Thus, we can safely assume that any program of length n, it consists of how many unique strings of length? It consists of n by eta numbers of unique strings of length. It is a standard combinatorial result that for every given alphabet of size k, there are exactly how many different strings? It's just a combinatorial problem. It is standard combinatorial result that for any given alphabet of size k, there are exactly k to the power r different strings of length r. This is just a combinatorial problem. So mathematically we can write that. Thus, n by eta. Here we have already told you. Any program of length consists of n by eta number of unique strings of length. Thus, n by n will be less than or equal to what? Eta to the power eta, because according to the probability, according to the combinations theory, according to the combinatorial result, or according to the combinatorial theory, okay, according to the combinatorial result. So for any given alphabet of size k, exactly there will be k to the power r different strings. Similarly, you just replace with eta. Thus, since we have told that a program of length n consists of n by eta, so we can replace n by eta. So we can say that we can write that n by eta will be less than or equal to eta to the power eta, where k and r they are replaced with eta. So now you just cross multiply. Eta will be now less than or equal to eta to the power eta to the power n into eta, that will be equal to eta to the power eta plus 1. So n will be less than or equal to eta to the power eta plus 1. Since operators and operands, they usually alternate in a program. Now, isn't it? Normally after the operator one operand will come. After one operand, another operator will come. Since operators and operands, they usually alternate in a program, we can further refine the upper bound into like this. So I have told eta is equal to less than or equal to eta to the power eta plus 1. But since operators and operands usually alternate in a program, we can further refine the upper bound. Okay, the upper bound, this is the upper bound. We can further refine the upper bound into eta less than or equal to eta into eta 1 to the power eta 1 into eta to the power eta 2, like this. So here we have taken what eta to the power eta into eta to the power 1. That's we can again we can take the maximum upper bound. Since operators and operands they usually alternate in a program, what we can write? We can further define the upper bound into eta 1 to the power eta 1 and into eta 2 to the power eta 2, because we are assuming that eta 1 is the unique number of operators and eta 2 is the unique number of operands. And since the operands and operators they usually alternate in a program, so we can define the upper bound. We are just modifying this equation. We are breaking now eta into eta 1 and eta 2. Since the operators and operands usually alternate in a program, then we can further define we can change the upper bound, we can modify the upper bound as follows into like the following equation. Eta is equal to eta into eta to the eta 1 and eta 2 into eta 2 to the eta 2. Just I have used eta 1 and eta 2 in the place of eta. Almost n must include not only must include not only the ordered set of n elements, but it must also include all possible subsets that ordered set, isn't it? While you are considering n, it must not only include the ordered set of n elements. What are the ordered set of n elements? It will definitely include that, but also it must also include all the possible subsets that use permutation. It should also include all possible subsets of that ordered set. That is the power set of n strings it must consider. That's why what we can write. Here we have written only n, but as I was saying what, it must include all the possible subsets. So now So now here this left hand side n is replaced with what? All the possible subsets of the order set, that is power set of n, that is 2 to the power n. So now n is replaced with 2 to the power n and equal to less than equal to is replaced to the equal to, right hand side remaining same, eta into eta 1 to the power eta 1 into eta 2 to the power eta 2, right hand side remaining same. Okay. Now just this is 2 to the power n is equal to this. Please simplify. You can easily simplify. So after simplification, you can we get that n is equal to log 2 eta plus log 2 eta 1 to the power eta 1 into eta 2 to the power eta 2. So we get eta n is equal to how much? Log 2, and see this by ignoring log 2 eta. So log 2 eta we are just ignoring, maybe very negligible. So by ignoring or neglecting or by what since we are negligible value, by ignoring the value of log 2 eta, we get n is equal to log 2 eta 1 to the power eta 1 into eta 2 to the power eta 2. Or on further simplification, we will get n is equal to log 2 into eta 1 to the power eta 1 plus log 2 into eta 2 to the power eta 2. Very simple. Just again use, this is the power. So again after simplification, we will get like this. Eta 1 into log 2 eta 1 plus again eta 2 here power, it will come to left side, eta 2 into log 2 eta 2. So the program length can be finally represented as n is equal to eta 1 into log 2 eta 1 plus eta 2 into log 2 eta 2. Now you please see, I do not require the total number of operators and operands. I can easily find out the length of the program just by knowing the unique number of operands and the unique number of operands. I need not have to count the total number of operators and operands. Okay. The experimental analysis of large number of programs suggests that the computed and actual lengths match very closely. So they have conducted on several experiments. The experimental result shows that the computed and the actual lengths, or the computed and the actual lengths, they match very closely. This is how Halstead had proposed another method to estimate the length of a program without knowing or without calculating the total number of operators and operands. It is possible to find out the length of a program just by knowing the unique operators and the unique operands. Okay, let's quickly take a small example. So a small C program, main, integer ABC, average, scanf these things. I want to find out the average of this ABC, then printf this. A small program I have taken. I want to find out the program length, etc. So I have to first, what we have to do? I have to find out the total number, the unique number of operators, the unique number of operands, and then I can easily find out. In this previous program, you can see that the unique operators are, which are main, then this parenthesis, curly brackets, integer, scanf, ampersand sign, comma, and like this, I just find out a semicolon, equal to sign, plus, divide, printf. Similarly, unique operands, here what are the unique operands? C, ampersand A, ampersand B, ampersand C, A plus B plus C also treated as one operand, average 3, then this one, percentage D, that is also taken as one operand, then average is equal to percentage D here, that this is also taken as one operand. Similarly, average is also taken one operand. See, average I have taken one operand. Like this, first here we have to identify the unique operators, then the unique operands. So once this is done, use straightforward formula. What is the straightforward formula? Straightforward formula says that program length n is equal to eta 1 into log 2 eta 1 plus eta 2 plus log 2 eta 2. Now where eta 1 is the unique operators, eta 2 is the unique operands, and you can see that if you will count, after counting you can say that eta 1, the unique number of operators is equal to 12, and eta 2, that is the unique number of operands, is equal to 11. You just count, you will get these values. So the estimated length is equal to how much? Again, I have used this simple formula, eta 1 into log 2 eta 1 plus eta 2 into log 2 eta 2. This is equal to how much? Put the values in place of eta 1 plus please put 12 into log 2, and then what I think this log 2, then what is eta 1 again 12, Then what is eta 2? 11. Again log 2. What is eta 2? 11. On further simplification, you can get 81. So the estimated length is coming to be approximately 81. The program volume, you know, program volume can be computed as length into log of what? Log of n, capital N. Let's see what the formula for volume. This program volume is equal to what? N into log 2 eta. So now let's find out n into log 2 eta. Okay. So n into log 2 eta. What is n? N is not n1 plus n2. Take what is the estimated length here. So that is 81 into log eta. Eta means what? Unique number of operators plus unique number of operands. So eta 1 plus eta 2, 12 plus 11, 23. Simplify it, you will get 366. So in this way, by using Halstead software science, using the given equations, you can easily estimate the length and the value. Okay, so one such problem might come, please see those things. So today we have discussed the Halstead software science for estimating length, volume, effort and time. We have worked out some examples using Halstead software science. We have taken from this Rajimol's book, also this 3 authors book. You can see yourself. So little bit mathematical, but very easy. You can understand. Right now you might not have understand, but I request you please go through on tonight. Definitely you will understand these things. Please refer the book. And if any doubt, you can ask now. Yes, any doubt? I know it will take a little bit time. If immediately no doubt, please read them today. And please ask me in the tomorrow's beginning if any doubt is there. Quite easy. If you understand, you can just little bit mathematics. Just look at the book, take some examples, and you can do. Thank you very much. Any doubt, please? So please have a look into this. Again, I am saying, please see, this will be a little bit subjective because everything depends upon how you are finding out, identifying the unique operators and operands. So you may say this is an operator, somebody will say no, this is not an operator. You may say this is an operand, somebody may say this is not an operand. So the results might slightly vary. This is always ambiguous is there, ambiguity is there, but try to follow the guidelines for identifying the operands and operators and operands. Then if you can correctly identify the operators and operands, then you can easily attempt these types of questions. Thank you very much.